What if everything you believe about reality were an illusion? What if the world around you isn't exactly as it seems, but rather a construction of your own mind, a reflection of invisible patterns you've never noticed? What you see, touch, and feel might not be the absolute truth, but just a version filtered by your limited perception. Jacobo Grinberg, one of the 20th century's most enigmatic researchers, claimed that reality isn't fixed, but rather a projection created by your own mental field. His theory suggests that we live immersed in a fundamental energetic network, an invisible fabric that shapes our experience. What would happen if you learned to access that field and reconfigure your very existence? If you want to expand your consciousness and see the world like never before, comment below. My mind is open to new realities. Traditional science has always taught us that reality is objective, composed of physical particles organized according to immutable laws. But what if that idea were incomplete? Jacobo Grinberg, a visionary neuroscientist, dedicated his life to studying consciousness and made discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about the nature of the universe. Inspired by shamanic traditions and quantum physics, Grinberg proposed that what we call reality is actually a construction of the mind based on a fundamental energetic matrix he called lattice. Divine, this invisible structure would be responsible for connecting all living beings and allowing phenomena that go beyond conventional explanation, such as spontaneous healing, telepathy, and even the materialization of thoughts. His studies align with modern physics experiments like quantum entanglement, which demonstrate that particles can influence each other instantaneously, regardless of distance. This interconnectedness suggests that the human mind not only perceives the world, but actively participates in its creation. What if you could tap into this invisible network and reconfigure your perception? From the moment we are born, we learn to trust our senses to interpret the world around us. We see colors, feel textures, and hear sounds, believing that this is the true reality. But what if all of that were just a well-crafted illusion? Modern neuroscience has proven that the brain does not perceive the world as it truly is, but rather as it interprets it based on pre-existing patterns. Grinberg devoted his life to studying this phenomenon and discovered that our perception of reality is not fixed, but is built moment by our own mental field. What we call the external world is nothing more than the brain's translation of raw stimuli, organized according to the limitations of our senses and beliefs. To understand this better, just consider how our eyes work. The retina doesn't see images like a camera. It only captures light and sends electrical impulses to the brain, which then reconstructs an image based on its previous interpretations. The same happens with all our other senses. In other words, we don't see reality itself, but a version of it assembled by our mind. Now imagine what that means. If our perception is filtered and limited, then the reality we experience could be far broader than what we can capture. This concept becomes even more fascinating when we consider studies on the neuronal field, an invisible matrix that, according to Grinberg, connects all existence and allows the mind to shape reality in ways we do not yet fully understand. Moreover, experiments in quantum physics reinforce this idea. The famous double-slit experiment showed that subatomic particles can behave differently depending on whether they are observed, suggesting that consciousness directly influences matter. This leads to a surprising conclusion. Reality isn't a fixed given, but a field of possibilities constantly molded by our perception. But if reality is constructed by the mind, why can't we manipulate it consciously? The answer lies in the cognitive filters imposed on us throughout life. Education, culture, and social beliefs create a rigid structure of perception, limiting our ability to see beyond what we've been taught to consider real. Yet there are ways to expand this perception and access deeper layers of existence. If we start questioning reality and practicing techniques to expand our consciousness, we can break through those filters and see beyond the veil of illusion. If everything we perceive is merely a mental construction, what exists beyond our perception? This was the great question that led Jacobo Grinberg to develop his theory of the neuronal field, a hidden structure that connects all minds and forms the true basis of reality. According to him, this field functions like an energetic fabric in which all the universe's information is stored, allowing consciousness to act not just as an observer, but as an active force in creating reality. Grinberg suggested that this neuronal field could be compared to a vast network of information that transcends the limits of the human brain. In other words, what we call thoughts are not confined to our heads, but are interconnected with a larger system, akin to Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious. This idea resonates with ancient teachings from various cultures, which for millennia have spoken of a spiritual field or universal network that connects everything that exists. To understand this matrix of consciousness, just look at the brain's function. Neuroscience has shown that neurons communicate via electrical synapses, creating patterns that generate our subjective experience. But Grinberg's proposal goes further. He believed that the human brain does not generate consciousness, but rather receives it, much like an antenna picks up radio signals. In other words, the mind isn't an isolated product of brain activity, but a phenomenon that occurs within a larger field. This theory explains many phenomena that traditional science still cannot understand, such as telepathy, intuition, and even inexplicable healings. If the mind operates within a universal field, then thoughts and emotions might be transmitted beyond the physical body, influencing other minds and even matter itself. But why don't we perceive this in our daily lives? According to Grinberg, it's because our minds are programmed to interpret reality in a linear and limited way. From childhood, we learn to view the world within a fixed model, ignoring any experience that doesn't fit into that structure. However, there are ways to expand perception and directly access this matrix of consciousness. One of the best-known methods is deep meditation, which reduces the activity of rational thought and allows the mind to enter expanded states of consciousness. In these altered states, many people report profound experiences of connection with the universe, sudden insights, and even feelings of oneness with everything around them. If what Grinberg proposed is true, then it means each of us has the untapped potential to access this matrix and interact with reality in unimaginable ways. But how does this relate to modern physics? Quantum physics has revealed truths about the nature of reality that defy everything we once believed. One of the most enigmatic phenomena in this field is quantum entanglement, which suggests that two particles can remain connected instantly, regardless of the distance between them. This means information can be transmitted without a physical medium, as if there were an invisible field linking everything in the universe. This discovery, made by Albert Einstein and other 20th century physicists, perplexed so many that Einstein himself called it spooky action at a distance. He couldn't accept that two particles could interact beyond the limitations of space-time. However, later experiments confirmed that quantum entanglement is real, challenging the laws of classical physics and suggesting that the separation between objects might just be an illusion. What does this have to do with human consciousness? Jacobo Grinberg believed that quantum entanglement was one of the keys to understanding the mind and its relationship with reality. If particles can remain connected even when light years apart, then a similar phenomenon might exist in the human brain and the neuronal field. This could explain experiences like telepathy, where two people seem to share thoughts or emotions without any physical communication. Research even suggests that the human brain might operate on principles similar to quantum entanglement. Experiments with advanced meditators have shown that when two individuals enter a deep meditative state, their brain waves can synchronize, even when they are far apart. This reinforces the idea that the mind isn't confined to the brain, but connected to a larger network of information. Another implication of this phenomenon is the possibility that human consciousness can influence the physical world. If everything in the universe is interconnected, then our thoughts and emotions aren't just internal phenomena. They are forces that can affect the reality around us. This concept has been observed in experiments such as the observer effect, where the mere presence of an observer alters the behavior of quantum particles. If we accept that the mind can interact with matter on a fundamental level, then many inexplicable phenomena might make sense, including spontaneous healings, manifestations of intention, and even mystical experiences reported across various spiritual traditions. So how can we access this connection and use it consciously? The answer might lie in the expansion of consciousness, a process by which the mind transcends its own limits and opens up to new realities. If reality is constructed by the mind and connected by an invisible field, how can we access this matrix and use it to transform our lives? Grinberg believed that lattice, this underlying energetic structure of reality, could be accessed when the mind transcended its own limits. That means the more we expand our consciousness, the more directly we can interact with the network that structures existence. But what does it mean to expand consciousness? Many spiritual traditions and scientific studies suggest that the human mind operates within a limited spectrum, filtering out information that doesn't fit our everyday perception. Expanding consciousness happens when these filters begin to dissolve, allowing us to see beyond the conventions imposed by society, culture, and even the way our brains work. There are several ways to reach this expanded state. Deep meditation, altered states of consciousness, such as lucid dreaming, hypnosis, and the use of entheogenic substances like ayahuasca and psilocybin mushrooms have been used for millennia by shamans and mystics to access realities beyond the ordinary. Grinberg studied these traditions and noticed that many described something akin to what he called the neuronal field. Creative visualization, practicing the mental projection of desired scenarios as if they were already real, has also proven to be a powerful way to interact with the matrix of consciousness. Even experiences of synchronicity, where seemingly coincidental events carry hidden meanings, suggest that as we expand our awareness, we begin to perceive patterns that were once overlooked. All these practices share one common trait. They allow the mind to operate beyond its automatic, conditioned mode. Most people live trapped in repetitive patterns of thought and behavior, limiting their perception of reality. When we break through these barriers, we start to see the interconnection of all things and realize that we are co-creators of our own experience. If lattice is a field of information that permeates everything, then accessing this field means opening up to a reality where miracles can occur. Spontaneous healings, telepathy, and instantaneous manifestations are described in various traditions as possible for those who learn to interact consciously with this structure. Throughout history, accounts of extraordinary phenomena have challenged our understanding of the world. People who recover from terminal illnesses without any conventional treatment, monks who can withstand extreme temperatures, individuals who seem to predict future events, or even move objects with their minds. Traditional science often dismisses these events as coincidences or fraud. But what if they are genuine manifestations of the mind interacting with the matrix of reality? Grinberg studied many such phenomena and realized they could be explained if we consider that reality isn't fixed but is malleable by consciousness. If the mind is connected to lattice and has the ability to influence this field, then phenomena like telepathy and spontaneous healing wouldn't be supernatural, but rather part of the universe's fundamental laws, laws that traditional science has yet to fully understand. Telepathy, for example, has been extensively documented in scientific experiments. In a study conducted by the Institute of Noetic Sciences, volunteers meditated together, and even when separated by large distances, displayed synchronized brain patterns. This kind of connection between minds resembles the concept of quantum entanglement. If particles can communicate instantaneously, why couldn't the human mind do the same? Another phenomenon that defies conventional understanding is spontaneous healing. There are countless reports of people diagnosed with serious illnesses who, without any conventional treatment, simply recovered. The placebo effect, where belief in healing produces real physiological changes, illustrates how the mind, by interacting with lattice, can reorganize reality, including an individual's own biology. Beyond healing, there are accounts of monks and yogis demonstrating extraordinary abilities, such as controlling their heart rate, entering trance states for hours, or even altering their body temperature. An experiment at Harvard University showed that Tibetan monks, when practicing advanced meditation techniques, could raise their skin temperature by as much as 8 degrees, something conventional physiology cannot explain. And what about the manipulation of matter? There are records of spiritual masters who have demonstrated feats like levitation, materializing objects, and even altering the molecular composition of water. The scientist Masaru Emoto, for example, conducted experiments showing that words and thoughts can influence the formation of water crystals, suggesting that the mind can indeed impact matter. If all these phenomena really occur, it means we live in a universe where consciousness holds much more power than we imagined. But why does conventional science refuse to accept these discoveries? The answer may lie in the very history of Jacobo Grinberg. On December 8, 1994, Jacobo Grinberg disappeared without a trace. The scientist who had devoted his life to studying consciousness and the nature of reality simply vanished. No body was ever found, there were no signs of violence, and to this day his case remains one of modern science's greatest mysteries. But what could have happened to him? More importantly, what did he discover that might have led to his disappearance? Grinberg was conducting research that could have profoundly shaken the way we understand the world. He believed he had found evidence that the human mind can interact directly with reality in ways that defy the laws of traditional physics. His research on lattice, the fundamental matrix of consciousness, suggested that everything in the universe is interconnected and that perception actively shapes the world around us. What makes his disappearance even more intriguing is that, shortly before vanishing, he was studying inexplicable phenomena involving Mexican shamans, such as Pachita, a healer who performed spiritual surgeries without conventional instruments. Witnesses claim that Grinberg documented cases where organs would appear and disappear during these procedures, as if they were materializing or being transported from another dimension. For a scientist already exploring the limits of consciousness, this could have been the definitive proof that the mind can shape matter, but this wasn't the only line of inquiry that might have put Grinberg in danger. He was also researching the possibility of thought transmission over distance, a discovery that, if proven, could radically change our understanding of communication and mind control. In a world where governments and corporations invest billions in surveillance and manipulation technologies, discovering that the mind can operate without physical limitations would pose a serious challenge to established power structures. Some theories suggest that Grinberg might have been silenced by forces that did not want his knowledge to become public. Others indicate that he himself may have entered such an elevated state of consciousness that he transcended reality, much like the advanced enlightenment reported by great spiritual masters. Curiously, after his disappearance, his studies were nearly forgotten by the academic community. Many of his works were erased, and few universities continued his research. This erasure only deepens the mystery. Was it a deliberate effort to hide his discoveries? The truth about Jacobo Grinberg's disappearance may never be fully revealed, but one thing is certain. His ideas continue to inspire thousands of people to question the nature of reality. If he was right, it means each one of us has an unexplored potential to access higher dimensions of existence. So what do we do with this knowledge? If the mind shapes reality, then we can train it to see beyond its usual limits. Grinberg believed that consciousness was not confined to the brain, but was linked to a greater informational field. The key to accessing this network lies in how we direct our attention and energy. The modern mind is saturated with stimuli, preventing us from perceiving subtler realities. To break through this barrier, one essential practice is mental silence. Taking a few minutes each day to simply observe your thoughts without identifying with them. This creates an inner space where new perceptions can emerge. Various cultures have long explored techniques to access expanded states of consciousness through binaural sounds, hyperventilation, and even short fasts, all of which can alter the mind's functioning and make it more sensitive to the hidden structure of reality. Studies show that these states enhance brainwave activity associated with intuition and creativity. To perceive more of reality, we need to train our senses beyond their automatic use. Try walking in silence, paying attention to minute details, the texture of the ground, subtle variations of light, patterns in nature. Such practice activates new neural connections and trains the brain to pick up what was previously ignored. Events that seem to happen without apparent cause, like thinking of someone and then receiving a message from them, might be clues that your mind is interacting with the neuronal field. Keep a journal of these synchronicities and notice the emerging patterns. Over time, you may begin to see that reality responds to your attention and intention. Our perception of the world is limited by deep-seated beliefs formed in childhood. We unconsciously repeat patterns that reinforce a fixed view of reality. To break free, practice mentally rewriting those limitations. Daily, affirm new possibilities for yourself and imagine a life free from those constraints. This technique reprograms your mind to embrace new paths. Furthermore, the more we try to control reality, the more trapped we become in the illusion of separation. Grinberg studied shamanic practices in which surrendering to the flow of life allowed for extraordinary experiences. Let go of the need to logically explain everything and learn to trust the unknown. Reality tends to reorganize itself when we stop imposing resistance. These practices not only expand consciousness, but also make us more sensitive to the universe's invisible structure. When trained to see beyond the veil, the mind discovers that reality is far more flexible than we have been taught. Now that you have these tools, one question remains. Are you ready to change your perception of reality forever? Now that you understand that reality isn't fixed but a construction of the mind, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue seeing the world the same way, or will you take the first step to expand your perception? Jacobo Grinberg dedicated his life to revealing that human consciousness wields far greater power than we imagine. If he was right, then you have the ability to access the matrix of reality and transform your life from within. But this requires action. Merely knowing these ideas isn't enough. You must put them into practice. From today onward, challenge your perception. Practice mental silence. Stay alert to synchronicities and visualize the reality you wish to create. Don't passively accept the world as it's been presented to you. Question, explore, and expand your consciousness. If this message resonates with you, comment below. I choose to see beyond the veil of reality. Subscribe to the channel to continue receiving mind-expanding content that reveals the true potential of consciousness. Activate the notification bell so you won't miss a video, and share this knowledge with others who are ready to awaken. Reality is yours to be recreated. Are you ready? See you in the next video.